Hello everyone, welcome back to Tip of the Tongue Business Series. I'm chatting today with Michele Barry from Frontis Consulting. Michele knows all about engagement, so great to have you with us here today, Michele.
Oh, thank you for inviting me to talk about my favourite topic.
Yes, I think we're definitely seeing that there is a much greater need for a depth of engagement right now. And I know it's not something that everybody finds easy to do. We get into habits, don't we, that, create flyby conversations. Can I grab you for 5 minutes? And I'm not sure that that's really giving our leaders the best opportunity to take care of their people right now. What sort of things are you seeing going on out there that are going well for leaders in their engagement?
Oh, the leaders who are fantastic engagement have a couple of elements. They really seek to understand what's going on. They show that they're listening. And they change and modify what they need to do depending on what they hear. They don't go in with a fixed mind. They really have, they're vulnerable to ask the right questions and make answers they may not want to hear. So they're the great leaders.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've seen some really great leaders stepping up into the role of engaging better with their staff. I think sometimes we can think that we're going into an uncomfortable conversation when actually it's not. If we learn how to engage well and listen, as you say, with an open mindset, not a predetermined mindset around what's going to come out of that conversation. And I think that skill of listening we can really learn to hone at the moment, can't we?
Oh, definitely. The wonderful Peter Drucker talks about great leaders being able to listen and hear what's not being said, or read. Well, we sometimes call it reading the room. And acting appropriately. Different organisations have different cultures, and it's very tempting at leaders when they're networking to hear something that works in another organisation and bring it into your own. Now, it may work, but it just might not be the right thing for you right now.
So if you were talking to a leader now and he was saying to you, or he or she was saying to you, I am having trouble engaging with my team, what sort of tips would you be giving them just to get them started, to help them feel more comfortable about engaging in that process?
Well, I'd like to sit down with a leader and learn more about them and their style and what's made them feel like things aren't quite working. One thing that's really interesting is that sometimes the leader isn't the right spokesperson or the right person to lead the engagement. Sometimes they need to trust their team, find another, voice or amplifier within their leadership team, or even somewhere else in the organisation to do that investigation and engagement, and then show that if, for example, they promote equality, but they're the only one who talks, that doesn't quite work. Or if you talk about diversity, but you all look the same and act the same and say the same things. It's really looking at what you do, what you say, and does it align with what you think people see of you? And that can be really tricky to hear the truth. But you've got to be brave enough to do that.
Yes, I think it does take courage, doesn't it, to put yourself in a situation where you might hear something that you don't necessarily want to hear, and not to then have a reaction to that whatever it is that you've just heard, but actually to be able to go, yes, I'm listening because I want to understand. I'm listening because I want to be able to clarify what's going on for somebody. I'm listening so that I can actually get to know what's going on for them better, rather than I'm listening because I need to fix something, or I've got to immediately find a solution, or I've got to respond and have the answer straight away. There's a big difference, isn't there, between listening to actually react to something and listening to take the time to consider what the response might be.
Oh, 100%, Dan. I mean, the great leaders I know, and great leaders in organisation, but great community leaders, they listen to understand. They empower organisations to, I guess in a bigger space, you'd call it public participation, but to truly engage, to feel vulnerable, to listen and listen in different ways. So, and don't respond in a generic type of way. Show that you've listened. So don't be going in and throwing yoga classes at your team if they're not the yoga sort. Don't be sending journals for people to fill in if they're not the journaling sort. For some people, it'll be about creating a forum or a meal, or I've heard of some really creative things that organisations are doing via Zoom. Dinner parties can seem a bit weird, but for some organisations that sort of works via Zoom. Trivia days and nights, lots of gin tasting I hear going on, but that will work for some organisations at some of the time. Another thing is to, really strip back your bias, and that's really hard because your bias is what led you to successful steps to get to your position. So that's putting yourself in a vulnerable position. But really checking out the quiet people in your organisations. Do you create an organisation where you really survey the mood properly, not just the loud people? They're always happy to share their opinion. And what they do is just amplify the things that are not going quite so well.
Yes, I think it's really important, isn't it? I don't know that everybody has the skill of being able to read the room. I think we are more used to coming in, delivering a piece of information rather than actually seeing it as an opportunity to communicate, which should be a two-way situation. We're more trained as leaders and managers to come in, deliver the information, and then, okay, when are we going to get it done by? Topic closed, move on. I think there's a lot at the moment when I talk to leaders that they would like to try and get things back to normal. But I think the first thing we've got to do is establish what normal now is. And I think it has changed phenomenally for people over the last 18 months, 2 years. None of us thought that we were going to be back in this situation in 2021. So it felt like we've moved through a lot of different change cycles. And if you're somebody who struggles with change as a leader, then it can be really difficult to put yourself in that space and be authentic around, actually, this is what's going on for me right now, and I'd love to have a conversation about what's actually going on for you. And I'm going to allow that interaction to happen.
Yes, I think you're right when you talk about how leaders just go in and deliver information and say, well, I'm being open. It's almost like they've become leaders of the press conferences. And gosh, we have a lot of those, don't we?
Yes.
And as we see in any public press conference, there's always a limited number of questions being asked by people that are often journalists. So they don't always represent the constituency that might be affected by this change. And, the press conference is designed to give limited information in a limited amount of time from a different perspective. Now, there are some groups of people that do press conferences well. They'll go in with a figurehead and then go in with technical advisors or subject experts. And maybe if you need to do something in a Zoom type of way, that's a way you could really approach it, is look at the colourful people that you have in your organisation and who can complement the way you need to present something. And then making sure that you enable true conversation to happen in a forum that is suitable. So it could be through your chat, so it's live. So some people think transparency is a quality. It's not. Transparency is very much just, the chat feature is very much for those who want to be public with what they want to say. Sometimes that's appropriate. But how are you enabling the conversations you'd love to have happen? And, the quiet achievers in your organisations aren't going to be the ones who will, speak out loud. But true engagement is really finding those voices. Who's going to be the person that has those conversations on the organisation's behalf? And are you willing to listen to the conversations that need to be had? They might not fit in with your little glossy vision statement, as we've spoken about before, but they really make a difference and inform better design of your workplace.
I love that. Yeah, it's all about how we design the workplaces moving forward, isn't it? And I think it is about having better workplaces where we do show up every day authentically as leaders, but most importantly as humans, that human to human connection that I think we've lost, the need to feel connected, that need to be able to have that human to human connection in your workplace is so important now. So important. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's time for leaders to not just think about convincing people of their good ideas, whether they know they're doing it or not, because you spend a lot of time in that strategic planning session, and you spend a lot of time researching the data and coming up with your good idea. And it would be very neat if you could just get everyone to come on board and feel the same way culturally. Now, good change and good engagement is about really being appropriate with that. Now, there are some elements that are wonderful and people say, yeah, look, that looks all right, but I'm just not sure about this little bit. Now, as a leader, do you know what this little bit is? And if you don't, why? And if there are blockers, investigate. You waste millions of dollars on unsuccessful changes because you didn't spend a little bit of time just navigating a little bit more. So I couldn't agree with you, Sian. I think now is the time is right to show the calibre of leader you are, to show the true designers out there, and to show those who want to have co-design in their workplaces. I think you can make the most of your intellectual ability if you really open yourself up to that.
I love that. I think that's a really good place to leave this conversation, because I think that sentence sums it all up. It's about showing your level of understanding and your level of intellectual ability when you actually make yourself that little bit vulnerable and allow others to do the same. I absolutely love that. Michele, thank you so much for today. I could talk to you for hours. I love our conversations, and I know we're going to find an opportunity to deep dive again. So thank you very much for your time today.
Oh, thank you, Sian. It's always good fun. Take care.